Welcome to yet another edition of Two Sites Unite. I am George Phillips with oilpressure.com, and you are?
I am Paul Dalby with fieldof33.com.
Okay, and this is our second episode just here in the month of May. The field is now set for
The field of 33 is now set.
Huh?
The field of 33 is now set.
Okay, that's a unnecessary plug, but it is now set for the 105th running of the Indianapolis 500, not sponsored by Coca-Cola.
No, Coca-Cola is no longer even the official drink of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
No, it is not. It is now a Pepsi property, and I don't like that, but that's
I don't either.
Neither here nor there. So Scott Dixon's on the pole.
Not shocking.
But I think, well, based on the last few races, maybe it's not a surprise that Colton Herta is in the middle of row one and Rinus VeeKay is on the outside. Your thoughts?
Well, I think you're looking at three of the hottest drivers in the league right now. I mean, you're always going to have Scott Dixon in that conversation. For the foreseeable future, you're going to have Colton Herta in that discussion, and Rinus VeeKay's looked as strong over the last few rounds as anyone. What I find particularly interesting is we hear about this youth movement that's coming on, but we hear about the veterans that are in IndyCar right now. And really, you kind of have three classes with the young guns, the middle-aged veterans, and then you got the old group. If you look at the Fast Nine, the top nine qualifiers that we saw, you have Dixon, Carpenter, Kanaan, and Elio. And Ryan Hunter-Reay. I think Ryan Hunter-Reay just turned 40. You have five guys who are 40. You've got Herta, VeeKay, Palou. All of them are under 20. I think Palou is 24, and then you got a 21. You have one guy in the middle, Ericsson, who I think is 30 or 31. So you have the young guys, you have the old guys, but amazingly, you're kind of void of the older veteran, the mid-class veteran.
You're void of the Newgardens, the Hinchcliffs, Rossi, yeah, I put him right in the middle there. Those that are 30-ish.
Yeah, Graham Rahal you didn't have in there. Simon Pagenaud's not in there. Well, I'm sure we're going to get to those stories here in a bit. Really, the only old guys, if you will, that you don't have right there are Sato and Montoya. Pretty good showing for the old guys in a track that nobody has ever tried to claim that experience doesn't count for a lot at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I think we're seeing that bear out here.
That's true. One thing, of course, excellent showing. Well, not only this weekend, but really so far for the season for Chip Ganassi Racing. But what about the other big three? Now, some people are saying big four, but except for Colton Herta, no Andretti driver in the top nine. I forget.
Hunter-Reay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. Hunter-Reay. You like hearing me say that, but I'm wrong. That you're right.
I do.
But Hinchcliffe, I think he's starting 16th, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And
Rossi just missed it. Rossi was
10th. Rossi was 10th. But I guess I'm going back to Stephen Wilson. He's a one-off. Of course, then you can technically throw in the two Shank cars, Elio and Harvey. Of course, that tire situation with Harvey, that was wild.
Just unreal. Yeah.
But the Andretti cars, even when were having poor years, they still did well at Indianapolis. And I guess two cars in the Fast Nine, that's good. But for the most part this season, except for Herta, they've kind of been out to lunch.
Well, I think our measuring stick is a little against Andretti is a little bit skewed, because anytime you put three drivers in the top 10, most people are going to consider that a fairly good team effort. The problem is you have 4 Ganassi in the top 9, and they're just making everyone look bad right now. But I think if you told Michael Andretti 2 weeks ago that you're going to put 3 guys in the top 10 for the starting grid, I think he'd be happy with that.
Yeah.
I think Rossi's a little disappointed to got left out of the Fast 9. I was surprised that Rossi was out with Ryan Hunter-Reay in, but I still think they look strong.
You may be working to convince me on that.
We should go ahead and shut it down now. We're under 30 minutes. We'll go ahead. You admitted I was right twice now, and we should call it quits there.
And before we get to the elephant in the room, talk about Arrow McLaren SP. Those, I know, I think Award starts 12th, and I think Rosenquist is 14th, if I'm not mistaken.
You are correct.
And Montoya, is he around 24th? Is that right?
Yep.
And of course, Montoya just seemed lost at the Grand Prix, and then 2 days later, or 3 days later, when the Tuesday practice started, boom, he's up in the top 5, I think, or at least for most of that day. But I would think that they overall have got to be disappointed. Of course, they have the Chevy engine, which was a disappointment to most teams except for Ed Carpenter's team. But I think that McLaren I think they had higher expectations than this.
I think you're right.
I like hearing you say that.
I said I think you're right. Yeah, I think Pato qualifying outside of row 4 is probably a bit of a disappointment to him. He didn't look particularly strong at the Grand Prix either. After winning at Texas, he wasn't strong really the first week of practice. The week of practice, I guess the first week now is sort of like saying the front nose of the car. So he wasn't strong in practice. Really, just never seen that strong in qualifying. Never attempted to come back out. Never put up big times. And honestly, I don't remember what he did in the post-qualifying practice session, but I don't know that he was particularly fast then either. Rosenquist, I don't know what to say about Rosenquist. I had never really bought into the hype, even when he was at Ganassi.
He did win a race, and he earned that race win too.
He probably could have won 2. He won at Road America last year. I don't want to say easily, could have won at Mid-Ohio the year before, because getting around Scott Dixon's never going to be an easy task, but he certainly showed strongly. You got to think he's questioning his agent or his decision making of jumping ship from a proven winning car at Ganassi, although maybe not proven winning is a fair term, but certainly a strong team with Ganassi. Jumping ship and taking his services to McLaren, got to think he's certainly second guessing that decision.
I think Zach Brown sold him on the idea of potential, because a lot of people are saying, "Oh, that's going to be a strong team this year," and with Award, it is. But I think that they may be second guessing themselves more than Rosenquist is second guessing himself. And I'm just not so sure that he's going to be in that car. Maybe not even by the end of the season. That team over the years has certainly shown that they don't mind cutting drivers loose, even back when it was Schmidt Peterson or Sam Schmidt Motorsports. So it would not surprise me if his game does not turn around here, not only this weekend in the Indianapolis 500, but also in the June and July races. It may be a hot August for him.
I think that he'll finish out the season. I don't see this going as Oliver Askew's season did last year, where Oliver was crashing a lot and not bringing the car home. Rosenquist just is one of those guys that you kind of forget is even in the race most of the time. Now, crashing into the pit wall at Barber is
I was about to say his opening race at Barber was nothing but looked like Keystone Cops. But
thankfully, yeah, it was a very I don't want to say a very cheap accident for him at Barber, but certainly in the grand scheme of things, knocking the pit wall at 15 miles an hour, 20 or whatever he was doing really wasn't that big of a deal. But those results just haven't been there. And quite honestly, these are two entities who have married now that I haven't been convinced. I haven't bought into the hype of either of them, Rosenquist or McLaren. You know, McLaren's been saying for, well, ever since Arrow came on board, probably 2 or 3 years ago, they started. Well, Arrow came on in 15. You're right, but about 3 or 4 years ago, when Arrow got the naming rights to the team,
oh yeah,
brought an infusion into that team, they were saying right then that, you know, we are part of the Big Four now, and you know, it's never. They haven't made that leap yet.
No, they have not produced. So I mean, they've got one win really since McLaren came on board, and that was 3 weeks ago.
Right.
Now the team that everybody's been talking about this week, Team Penske.
Yeah.
Highest starting driver is a rookie, Scott McLaughlin. I think he's starting 17th.
16th. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, 17th. Yes.
And you've got a cheat sheet, and I don't.
And the official, unofficial results.
And then I believe Newgarden starting 21st, and Pagenaud is what, 27th or 26th? 26th. And Power, you know, lucky to be in the race at 32nd.
Yeah.
He showed some guts though, and he did more than brush that wall. I mean, he hit the safer barrier at a pretty good clip, but he did not release. I mean, did not take his foot off the throttle at all, and good for him, because one little breathe of the throttle that may have kept him out of the race.
Yeah. I mean, these times now are so close that, you know, you can't lift off for a quarter of a second, even crack the throttle for a quarter second. I mean, we're talking such minuscule differences over 10 miles. That took some cojones on his part to see that wall coming and keep your foot planted on it.
Which kind of brings me, I'm going off on a tangent for a second. We'll get back on the Penske deal, but this week I've been seeing claims of fastest field in Indianapolis 500 history. That's a little bit of a shallow claim, I think, because that's what you get with a spec series.
Sure.
And everything is just, I mean, all cars are identical, and so your slowest car is still going to be almost as fast as your fastest car.
And you're in the fourth year with essentially the exact same formula.
Yes. So I don't get a whole lot of giddiness over that claim, and I think it's been kind of trumpeted a little too much this week.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I would feel better if that claim was made because the overall speeds were going up, but right now the top speeds are stagnant. In fact, I think they're a little lower this year than they were from last year. The bottom is just coming up, and everyone.
Yeah, it was not that. I want to say that as recently as, say, 2008 or 2009, there may have been a 10-mile-an-hour spread.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to go back and look. That seems a little high, but you may be right. What are we now? We're I don't have the first.
I think Simona's average was what, 228.1 or something.
228.3.
228.3.
And Scott's day one fastest speed was 231.8.
What do you mean day one? What's his official qualifying speed?
Well, I don't know which one's his official speed. The first day or the fast?
His pole speed. When he ran for the pole, that's his official time.
Okay, I guess that's 2:31.68. So he was a little slower in day 2.
Yeah, but that's the official time.
Okay, then officially Rossi has the fastest time in the field.
Yeah, and that's happened before.
Actually,
Yeah.
no, that's actually not right. No,
I thought you said you had the things in front of you.
I do. It's how they have it laid out is a little goofy. Rossi at 2:31.046 would be, if he had run part of that, he is the 5th fastest official qualifying speed.
Okay. Anyway,
Stupid.
but that's happened. I mean, that's the nuances of this qualifying format versus the nuances of 4-day qualifying format. When Ari Leyendijk is the track record holder, yet he's starting in row 5 or wherever he started.
Sure, but he only has one qualifying speed for that year officially.
True. Anyway, back to Team Penske.
Right.
Which I said I'm going off on a tangent. I did. As you know, in fact, the last time we did this, I was already beating the drum. I've been beating the drum since last summer. That ever since Roger Penske stepped off the pit box due to him owning the series and owning the track, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, it would not be a good look for him to also be standing on the pit box calling the shots for his team. I understand that, but with him stepping away out of the pit box and into the owner's suite or wherever he spends the races now, I have been maintaining, and no disrespect to Tim Cindric, but he's got his hands full with just doing his day-to-day business. But I think that Roger Penske's presence away from there has caused them to, I think, lose their focus or their edge just the very slightest bit. But that slightest bit makes the difference between podium finishes and wins. And I do still think that's the problem with Team Penske. And as I said, I'm not slighting Tim Cindric because he's now the man visibly in charge. But I think that is, if that's not what's called, because I think it's obvious now, they are struggling and they've been struggling. I think Newgarden did win 4 races last year, but that was near in the second half of the season, I believe. And they are the only winless team among, throw in the big 4. They're the only winless team in the series now of the big 4. So, A, do you think there's a problem at Team Penske? And B, do you think it's due to the absence of Roger Penske?
Well, I think it would be very hard to say there isn't some sort of performance problem going on right now, because these issues that we're seeing, these are not bad luck things. These are not things like happened to Ryan Hunter-Reay, where you have 2 engines blow and you have the only 2 engines in the entire series for about 8 years, or you have a flat tire, or you get caught up in Joseph Newgarden's accident at the start of the year. I mean, some of those things you can account on the Andretti side to bad luck. You're not seeing that with Penske. They're just not performing. Ed Carpenter Racing showed this weekend that Chevys have power.
Yeah,
pun intended. They are able to perform. Penske, for whatever reason, they are just not performing now. The question is there something you can put your finger on it, and is it related to Roger Penske being off the stand? I don't know that I'm quite ready to go that far yet, from the standpoint of I don't know how much Roger Penske himself was actually involved in the day-to-day operations of the race team. Probably very little.
I don't think he was sitting in on the engineering meetings. I don't think he was overseeing pit stop practices. But I do think that he was focused on the smallest details, and I think he demanded others around him to be focused on the smallest details. And when he's not there, I think it's easy for those little things to be overlooked.
I just don't know. I mean, Roger Penske is overseeing dozens of companies and billions and billions and billions of dollars of worldwide revenue every year. Auto racing to Roger Penske is his side gig and his hobby. I don't know when Roger probably stopped being full-time or most of the time racing person and started becoming more the Penske businessman ahead. I don't know. That's probably been years and years since then. Tim Cindric has been running the day-to-day operations and making sure this works as a well-oiled machine for a long time. And Team Penske has been very successful under Tim Cindric's reign.
Yes, and I said I'm not laying this on Tim Cindric.
Sure. So is it that Roger's presence at the track, actually within the team, causes some people to sit up straight and fix their collar a little bit more? Maybe there's a little bit to that, but I don't know that Roger's role has really changed that much within the team, other than being the strategist on Will Power's car. And I just don't see that absence having the type of effect that we're seeing here. Because, if Roger Penske and Tim Cindric themselves were both sitting in the hospital all week and hadn't even talked to anyone at the track, Will Power should not be getting out-qualified by Max Chilton and Dalton Kellett. No offense to those two, but there's a bigger issue than the lack of the captain's presence on the pit box that's causing this problem.
Well, it's the $1 million question, and I would be glad to listen to other people's theories, but and that's all they are. They're just theories. That's my theory. You've kind of explained why my theory is wrong, but you haven't thrown out your own theory.
Well, I think that Penske, all teams go through these cycles. Eventually a team is going to hit a downtime, and Ganassi, if you take Dixon out of it, the rest of that team was down for quite some time.
Yeah.
And Andretti's been down for quite some time. Outside of Indianapolis, they were down. Could be worth that. Maybe things have just gotten stagnant at Team Penske. They've had the core of Joseph Newgarden, Will Power, and Simon Pagenaud in place. Power since 2009, Newgarden since 2016, and Pagenaud since 2015. Have things become stagnant there? Is there a lack of drive to perform? I don't know. I'm not suggesting that Newgarden and Power and Pagenaud don't care anymore. But you and I also had the conversation this year. What happened in 2018? There were rumors about Will Power being on the hot seat. He came in and wiped the competition the month of May in 2018. Come to 2019, there's rumors that Simon Pagenaud is on the hot seat. He comes in, wins the Grand Prix, wins the pole, wins the 500.
Yep.
A lack of security tends to make drivers push a little harder, or teams in general push a little harder.
Okay. Is it too early to predict a winner?
Well, that depends on if you're going to take the easy guess or not.
I don't have a pick yet. I'll say that. This video is running on Thursday. It's obviously earlier in the week than that, so I don't have one in my mind ready.
I do, but I'm not ready to divulge it quite yet. Well, I'll divulge that here in a few more minutes, though.
A few more minutes?
A few more minutes, yeah. I want to talk about the qualifying format first, though.
Okay, I'll sit back, get on your soapbox.
No, no, I want to know what I think what happened at the end of the day Saturday was an utter debacle, and I've seen some explanations. I still think it's really dumb. Um, so confused. I mean, we twisted, contorted, and convoluted Indianapolis 500 qualifying to attract new fans, but I guarantee no new fans who stumbled across the broadcast had any idea what the hell was going on
I
Saturday.
will completely agree with you on that. I think this was created or contrived with the idea of making it exciting for new fans that don't understand this decades old way of doing things. And instead, what they've done, they've confused everyone. And I don't mean just fans, they've confused team owners, broadcasters, um, drivers, probably some officials. And I think it has backfired. I think they need to simplify it. And personally, I'd love to go back to the old way of doing things, but that's not going to happen. But I think that they need to make this, a lot easier to understand than what it is. To me, it's almost as confusing as NASCAR stage racing.
Sure. You know what I think the genesis of the problem is here is that they seem to be willing and following through with changing the rules seemingly on an annual basis based on the number of entries that they're expecting. So they have a set of rules that is in place if they're expecting 33 cars. They have a set of rules in place if they're expecting 35 or 36 cars. If we ever got to 40 cars, I have a feeling it'd be a completely different set of, and I guess the overarching themes of the procedures are the same, but the nuances, what can you do with the line? How long do you have to do this or that? Things that happen at the end of day Saturday seem to really get altered on an annual basis based on how many cars are on the entry list, rather than having a set of rules that lasted for 8 decades and it was applied whether there were 33 cars or 43 or 28 cars. It was the same rules across the board.
Yep.
And then, we saw in response to some popular drivers being bumped out of the field, be that James Hinchcliffe or Fernando Alonso, then we changed the rules again the next year to make sure that our big drivers don't have that they have a second shot of getting into the race in case their first one goes wrong.
Well, I do actually like, because I remember when Hinchcliffe was bumped out, he was officially gone and out at the end of Saturday.
Yeah.
And there was nothing on Sunday. And so I do like the fact that they do have this. Now, I thought it was great when I heard it was going to be a 75-minute session, but it ended up being
75 minutes of it.
Huh?
Until I sat through 75 minutes of it.
Yeah, because then you see that it was everybody take their one run, and then there's about 50 minutes of just watching drivers sit in their cars under an umbrella.
Yeah. So let me tell you one of the things that I really, really hated about that, and it didn't actually come to fruition, but it could have, and it would have really sucked. So when Will Power, we talked about earlier, he tapped the wall, he seemingly got away with it. It didn't appear that there was any car damage there. But had there been any damage there, and he said on his time, he would have had that time up until, say Charlie Kimball went out with 2 or 3 minutes left to go. He would have had to sit on that time, and Team Penske would not have been able to make any changes to his car whatsoever other than a wing change and change the tires. If they would have done anything else, touch the suspension, touch the A-arms, touch the shocks, do anything else, Will Power would have been forced to withdraw his time. Now, Charlie Kimball is sitting 3 spots behind him, and because he's not in the field, his entire car is open for altering. They could do anything they wanted because all they have to do is withdraw a time that wasn't valid anyway. So now, if Charlie Kimball goes out with 3 minutes left to go and knocks Will Power out, Will would not have had any opportunity to make any changes to his car and try to bump his way back into the field. That's what I don't like. I think that
unfortunately, it definitely needs more tweaking.
Yes, exactly. Here I just commented how I hate the fact that it changes every year, but I can see that this year it didn't all go terribly wrong. But I can see
I so much to Lou Palmer.
Yes, exactly. I can see where if Kimball would have been able to bump either Power or Simona out, either one of those teams would have been justifiably pissed because they're not allowed to do any work on their car. And, you can't make every change to go faster simply with wings.
Yeah.
And tires. I think it's inherently unfair. I understand the justification for it, but I really, really hate how it could play out. And I think IndyCar really needs to look at that. If we're going to continue to make these contrived and convoluted rules for the sake of drama, let's not really disadvantage the people that are on or next to the bubble, and where they can't fight back. Done with my soapbox there.
Okay, so we're hitting the time period where if anybody was listening, they may be dropping off by now. So you said you had a pick. Are you ready to divulge it?
I do. The obvious one is Scott Dixon. My problem with Scott Dixon is I feel like you can count probably on one hand over the course of 104 races the number of times such an obvious pick has actually followed through and won the race.
Johnny Rutherford.
Johnny Rutherford's the one that I think of more than any other. I don't even know where you would go after that. Maybe Elio in 09.
I was thinking that one.
Yeah. There aren't many. And I just feel like it feels like for this year it could happen for Scott. That team is really clicking. The problem is you have to do it's not enough to be perfect, and it's not enough to be lucky. You have to do everything perfectly to get in the position to have luck go your way.
You have to do everything perfectly and then hope that other people have bad luck.
Yes, or you at least have better luck.
Yes.
And for that reason, I just don't, just like I did last year when I actually did pick Sato, I just felt like the race was a time. I did. I picked Sato. Yes. It just felt like the type of race that Takuma would like to run. I think the winner will almost certainly come from the first 2 rows. I just don't think that anybody beyond row 3, maybe with the exception of Alexander Rossi or possibly Graham Rahal, who's all the way back outside row 6. I don't think anyone can set up a car that can both get to the front and stay at the front if it does get there. I think the guys in rows 1 and 2 are going to have their cars set up to basically take off and never be in traffic. And the guys from rows 3 to 11 are going to set their cars up to be in traffic and never be able to run up front. So I think it's who can start up front and stay up front. And for that reason, I just don't feel it with Scott. My pick is Colton Herta. Not a super thin branch, I will admit. Andretti is always good. Herta actually had a fairly strong run here last year after a mechanical in 19 knocked him out, 4 laps into the race, I think?
Three laps, yeah, something like that.
I think he had one of those rear wheel failures again, just like a couple of guys did down in Texas. I think Colton's got the maturity. He has started to show better on ovals. They're obviously not his strong suit, but he ran well at Indianapolis last year. Had a good run at Gateway last year as well, which, it used to be Phoenix that used to kind of predict how that would be similar to Indianapolis. Now I feel like Gateway may.
A long time ago, it was the August Milwaukee race.
Well, yes, that was a long, long time ago. But I just feel that Herta, he's shown strong all year. For 21 years old, he's exceptionally mature. And whatever immaturity still lingers in him, having his father in his ear, I think will be exceptionally important. Brian took both Dan Weldon in 11 and Alexander Rossi in 16 to victory. So if you believe in any sort of numerology thing, that could certainly play into this. I just think that Andretti cars have been strong. I think they're a little bit under the radar based on what Ganassi has been doing, and I think that will serve them well.
Okay. I'm not ready to make a pick, but I don't think Herta is going to win.
Okay.
And because in essence, he's been in one other Indianapolis 500 besides this one. I mean, three laps of 1-2 years ago. I'm not convinced he's ready for that yet. He may be, but I'm not ready to pick a winner, but I am ready to say I don't think it's going to be him. Could be Scott Dixon. I'd be willing to take Scott Dixon over Herta. Could be a Chevy engine. Could be Ed Carpenter.
It will be interesting to see, and I think we'll know a lot more on Friday after the Carb Day practice.
If it does not get rained out.
If it doesn't get rained out. The Chevrolets, and I think you alluded to this a little bit earlier, maybe it's just in our discussions, from Tuesday to Thursday of last week and then Sunday night, the Chevrolet engines looked every bit as if they were on par with Honda.
They were dead even. I mean, drivers in both camps are saying there's really no difference.
Right.
But for whatever reason, and you're an engineer, you know these things more than I do, but for whatever reason, the Honda engines responded to the added boost, whereas the Chevrolet engines did not seem to.
Or at least most of them.
I'm probably oversimplifying that, but look at the speed charts, except for the CR cars.
Right. And the car that it seemed like everyone was pointing to prior to Fast Friday that looked really good every day in traffic was Simon Pagenaud. I feel fairly confident, and I'll feel like a fool if he proves me wrong, but I feel fairly confident that Simon Pagenaud has too large of a hill to climb to come from 26 to win this race.
I agree.
Now, Alexander Rossi ran well in 19 coming from 32nd.
If you were to hold a gun to my head at this moment and say, make a pick, I think right now it'd be Rossi.
Really?
Yeah. Talk about flying under the radar. And he was very strong at Indianapolis last year until that bogus call took him out of contention. And then, why are you shaking your head?
Because the call was right.
That bogus call that took him out of contention, and then he was just trying desperately to make up and just, put it into the wall.
But, that, though, is exactly what I was talking about of why, the teams know that. If you start in the middle of the pack, your car is set up to run back there. Those cars that were running back there would never be able to get to stay at the front. Likewise, the cars that started at the front, like Rossi did last year, never set up their cars to run in the back. And anytime something like that happens, there's so many things that, be it a penalty or a messed up pit stop, flat tire,
which is what he had in 19. Was that? Remember, that was the year when he and Pagano were battling it out at the end.
Yeah.
That's when he had that fuel probe that
one of several years that he's had a fuel probe.
Yeah. And so I just think that, we're talking about somebody that won it 5 years ago as a rookie, but I think he has certainly paid his dues now. People said that he had not paid his dues back then. He's paid his dues now. I just think that if I was going to pull at least a dark horse, that's who I'd pick. I'm not saying that's not going to be my official pick by the time unveil my pick on Friday, but right now I might go that route. My heart is saying TK or Elio just because, but I'm not sure that'll happen. I think TK has a better shot than Elio does.
I agree.
And
it's interesting, when TK actually did win back in 2013, that was the one year a lot of people had said, no, he doesn't have it this year. He's had a pretty.
That is the only, since I've been doing this site, that is the only year that I correctly picked the winner.
Really?
Wow. I picked TK.
Yeah, I think he could do it this year. It's one of those years where not a lot of people have talked about him. He hasn't gotten a lot of headlines.
He's very happy right now.
His year reminds me so much of Emerson Fittipaldi's in 1993. Nobody really talked about him. Emo qualified. I think Emo was outside row 3 that year. Nobody talked about him. Nobody really gave him a whole lot of shot. Nigel Mansell and Mario took most of the headlines. Ari Luyendyk took the pole. Nobody really talked about Fittipaldi, especially coming off a terrible 1992 event. It feels like that for Tony a little bit this year.
So, like I say, I've been thinking about it, but I'm still not sure who I'm going to put my curse on and pick.
Will you divulge your pick before the carb day practice, or will you be a coward and wait until you see what happens?
No, I will divulge my pick on my Friday morning post.
Okay.
That
obligatory but always entertaining race preview?
Something like that. It's obligatory, definitely. It's always something else too. No, the one that drops in about 4 a.m. Central Time. That's the one where I will divulge my pick.
All right.
So anyway, we are going on a good while. So I think it's time for us to wrap this up. Any parting shots?
No. Let's just look forward to a great race. Looks like the weather's going to be fantastic.
Weather's going to be perfect on Sunday. Friday is questionable at best. And fortunately, unlike last weekend, it's going to be much cooler. Not cold, but pleasant. Although I did see where I think Saturday night's low up there is supposed to be like 48.
I didn't hear it was going to be that chilly, but I thought I heard low to mid 50s. But yeah, it'll be a little brisk. So I would expect temperatures at Green Flag probably in the upper 60s, heading to the low mid 70s by mid afternoon.
Yeah, I think that's about right. That's right.
That sounds about perfect to me.
Yeah. So anyway, last shot. Go ahead.
That was my last shot.
Oh, okay. Well, and I have no last shot, so that's it. So, I did enjoy spending the weekend with you the last weekend at qualifying.
Even if you wouldn't go to Dawson's with me Sunday evening.
I wanted to get home, and I got home at a decent hour. I was home by 8:30.
Not bad.
That's about the earliest I've ever gotten home from qualifying weekend. Sometimes it's been as late as 1 o'clock.
Oof.
Yeah. And so now I was pretty well rested. So
As a reader commented on my site, it was good to survive the weekend with Felix.
Okay, well, I won't even say anything about the snoring that kept me up, and that I did record on my phone. So anyway, for Paul Dalby of what's the name of your site again?
Field of 33.
I keep wanting to say More Front Wing, but hadn't been there for a couple of months, has it?
It's been a while. It's been a piece.
Anyway, I am George Phillips of oilpressure.com. Enjoy the race.